All of a sudden,
Sorry, keep going.
all of a sudden I was off of it.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Out camera. Okay. Speaker phone. Speaker. Oh. Jack, can you say something?
Yes, I can.
Oh, now we can't hear you all.
Okay, okay. They were having issues with it.
You want me to
Sure.
hang up and come back? Now everything's frozen.
Phone is not working.
Yeah, I've got a blank screen.
Oop,
Oh.
oops, nope, that was my bad. That was,
I've got you now.
oh boy, oh boy.
Do you want me to leave and try to come back again?
No, it's not you. It's not you at all. It's,
Oh,
Okay, wait, the owl's coming back on. Okay, so here we all are. Our owl's back on for the camera.
Can you hear me?
Oh, so techy.
Got a tech whiz.
Michael would laugh too. Because I am absolutely not, but okay, that's great. So we have. They're fully.
okay. Oh, I wonder why Woody's not here. He's always here.
Well, it's only what is it, 6:30 now? Maybe he's at a park farther because of the Quarry Ridge meeting upstairs.
Maybe it's at the Quarry Richmond. No.
No, no,
He doesn't live there.
no, but I mean, like, there's
I
less
know.
parking, maybe.
He
Rush
usually-
hour traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, because he had a couple of things. Okay, but we'll start because it is 6:30 and here's Chris.
Oh, and then.
Is Woody coming? Did you see him by any chance out there?
Sorry, what?
Woody?
Didn't see him.
Okay.
Is he still in Connecticut?
Yes, he is. And I was hoping to be here in Connecticut. Okay, well, anyway. So, the meeting's called to order at 6:32. And, Shane sent an email to, Jim Brenton, saying that he really had too much on his plate, so he can no longer serve on the committee. And I just wanted noted in the minutes that we thank him for the good work that he did. I think he was pretty active during the, when the plan was being developed. And lately, he's just been traveling too much, so he can't be here. So in his place, I asked Jim Brenton to, appoint Charles Jackson, who's on Zoom right now, as a regular member. So now our regular members are myself, Robert Woody, who is right here now, thankfully. Daryl is a regular member, Henrietta, and myself, and Harry is an alternate. And also our wonderful secretary. We really appreciate everything she does. So the first thing on business is the review of the minutes. Did everybody get the minutes? If you've already gotten them, there's copies of them here. Okay. If you have read them, are there any comments or corrections? Errors? No? Can somebody make a motion to?
Move
accept-
their
Okay, what do you,
reception or adoption or what
okay,
is that?
second, Henrietta, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
okay. So they are, it's. If I don't recognize you, Charlie, call my name out because for me, I'm not very good at this. with the- All right. So one of the big things we're gonna do tonight is we wanna discuss the multifamily housing regulations that, the zoning commission had several members, and then Woody and myself participated in many meetings over the course of over a year, coming up with the regulations, and they are going to be presented to the public for a hearing on January 8th at 7:30. And what I am hoping is that as many members here as possible can come to the meeting. I know Woody will be
Wait,
so sadly in South Carolina. But he wrote a couple of things about the regulations, and I want you to be able to present that. Did you bring the copy of it?
I didn't.
If not, we have a copy of it someplace here.
Just one copy.
I read it, but I did not print it. I think anyone will not.
Okay, I have some. Wait a minute. Here we go.
No, that's what I did. We're gonna talk about that.
All this combined.
No, it's just being
There we go.
so organized. There it is. You've got everything.
Here's your
available.
copy. I do, no.
I did send this to Ms. White, who's the head of the land use here, and asked it that it be I don't know what the term is, but it would be read into the record. So it says, to whom it may concern, along with Judith Gora, I served on a zoning subcommittee 2022 to 23, asked to fashion a local town of Washington response to the new state requirements embodied in PA 2129 as a representative of our town's housing commission. Since I will be absent from the public hearings regarding our collective work, I'm writing a summary of what I feel is the most crucial portion of our work, which I hope will be honored and retained and can be framed in 3 principles. 1, while there was some disagreement over how tight our zoning controls need to be, we nonetheless affirm approval of multifamily housing by right with site plan review in many instances. I personally believe that major construction delays and unnecessary administrative expenses and legal fees will be avoided in asserting this procedural foundation. Special permitting should be the rare exception rather than the governing rule in the zoning of multifamily housing.
Okay, why don't you stop for a second?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any comments about that?
No,
Go ahead.
Okay, principle 2. Our meetings over a period exceeding a year's time brought us to a consensus that both all of the residential and all of the business zoning districts should be accessible for multifamily housing. Initially, there was sentiment for exceptions. The lakeshore area because of ecological concerns. The business district of New Preston Village because it is already shoehorned and built out into the tight little valley carved out by the East Aspetuck River. Or the Historic Preservation District on the Washington Green. But in each case, we subsequently concluded that these are not zoning issues. And we remain confident that where health and safety issues exist, our land use office will ensure compliance. There's a principle of fairness addressed in John Rawls' A Theory of Justice. The fairest adjudication of potential conflict of interest is administered from behind a veil of ignorance as to the circumstances of the disputants. Likewise, by insisting that all zones, residential and commercial, bear equally the perceived burden, vulnerability, and challenge of non-exclusion from preferential treatment, increases the likelihood of widespread community acceptance and workability.
Okay, does anybody have any comments about that? Or questions? Okay,
And the third principle, a key goal of the Town of Washington Housing Plan is to establish 30 new affordable housing units during that 5-year period, particularly with new construction of a multiple of housing units under one roof. We wish to pursue this 5-year goal by establishing that at least one of those units per total building be affordable, according to the state of Connecticut's definitions, and more than one if exceeding 10 units in all. And finally, in the open hearing in January 2024, I hope that these 3 principles will be maintained and preserved in the final wording of the multifamily housing regulations. I
so
try to express it as a personal
I know it's a
point of view,
personal
not
thing,
hang the
I know, but
whole commission.
I am definitely gonna be at the meeting. And I'm gonna definitely read this from you and also probably add my own comments, because I think this is very well said and doesn't say
Well, thank
anything that I wouldn't wanna be saying, except you say it better than I could ever do that. Okay, so, thank you. Any comments or questions about that? So
Can we get a copy of that?
I thought I had sent that to everybody,
Oh, okay, all right.
but if I
I'll
didn't
go
send
back, I'll go back into it, right,
today,
okay,
I sent it today.
okay. Oh, yeah, you did, I'm sorry. You sent it under you sent the email about, you said Woody has some good ideas. Right,
Yes, yes.
Right.
That's not a copy of what he's there.
Oh, it isn't, you didn't, okay,
No, that's a copy of the minutes from the planning commission.
oh,
I didn't copy it.
okay, all right.
Do you want this back and make a copy of it?
I'm happy to make copies or to email, I can email it.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. And early, good.
I thought I had sent it. But maybe.
So Judy, let me ask you, the meeting, then the meeting that you're referring to, the town meeting. What is the purpose of that? Is that a meeting that is much more general, or are they just going to be talking about housing commission issues?
We're gonna be talking about this, about the draft number 10 of the multifamily housing regulations.
11.
That 11, I'm sorry, I only have to do.
They're
Yeah,
copies
okay.
of 11.
And then are they going to vote? What's going to be the result
No.
of that meeting?
So everybody in town can come and voice their opinions about
Okay,
any part of it, okay? And then the zoning is supposed to be listening to that. And then, as I understand it, it is up to the zoning commission to, accept it or change it or whatever, but it does not have to go back to, it doesn't have to go to a town vote to be accepted. That's in the purview of the zoning commission.
so they can take this and go back and have their own meetings, and then
They
they're obligated then to either ratify it or not, right?
Or change it,
Or to come
whatever.
up with it, okay, all right.
Yeah, but change it if people have, yeah,
So, the planning commission also comments on it.
yeah, they
And
can
if
comment.
The
I mean,
planning commission decides it's not a good idea. Zoning can basically override them with, I think, a supermajority. I think that's the process.
2/3.
4 out of 5. So supermajority.
And then what is the expected result? Is there then a statement by the zoning commission that then says, okay, we've heard everybody, this is what we propose? Or this is how it's going to be? Because you're
Yes.
saying it doesn't go for a vote. You're basically
But that-
saying they're absorbing the information, they're then going to come out with something that is a final decision. Is that right?
That's what I understand it to be, yes.
Okay. All right.
And so well, hopefully the result will be that at some point, somebody, some builder or somebody will come in and want to build some multifamily housing, or that people who have their own homes and want to convert them into multifamily housing will be doing that, so that there is more, at least, middle, housing for people. You know,
Like,
and, you know,
yeah,
workforce.
what I'm trying to get at though is the decision, the final decision rests with the zoning commission.
Yes,
Okay, so they're gonna come up with the final plan and that's it. It doesn't go to a vote, it doesn't go to a town vote or anything like that. That's it.
that's what I understand it to be, yes.
Okay, all right,
That's in their, you know,
Standard regulatory
Yeah.
process.
okay,
right,
An individual or a group can come to the zoning commission and say, we propose this regulatory change. Everything that's been crafted by Woody and Judy and Janet and Nick and everybody is ready to be seamlessly integrated into the zoning regulations. The moment everybody's on board with it and the zoning commission, I would assume, would vote to approve it.
But they could overrule it if they wanted to.
they could change
They
it,
could change,
yeah.
they could decide, we only want it.
They have to have a public hearing, so that people have a chance to have their input.
Yeah, but it's always pretty much a working paper. So,
Well, yeah, they could change it.
Yeah.
6 months
I-
down the road.
it just seems very surprising to me that that regulations that are of this consequence, and this is consequential.
Yes, it is.
This is not, this is not just minor sort of zoning changes. This is consequential, particularly in this community. So I'm sort of taken aback that the zoning regulations then take effect without a town meeting and a town vote, or at least a first selectman approval or something. And I'm happy with what you're suggesting. I'm just kind of surprised that that's all it's going to take.
Yeah, it's taken a lot to get here, so I can tell you
Well,
that.
that's true.
We've had many discussions, and differences of opinions, along the
Right.
way.
Well, what's
Yeah,
your feeling? What's your feeling? And those who have some exposure to members of the zoning commission, what's your feeling about their acceptance of what we're proposing?
I think they are pretty accepting of it,
They
as
are.
far as I understand it.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
So. The draft of language that is being proposed. Is required by state law now, and so state law now requires that we allow multifamily housing somewhere in Washington. And our current regs don't allow it at all. So zoning has to act on something, but what that looks like is up to each community, the state. There's a lot of leeway there. That's why we keep calling it PA 2129. It's Public Act 2129, it's Zoning Enabling Act that requires this to happen. And I brought the full language that's being proposed, draft 11. So
Sorry,
everybody,
I've got draft 10, but
so I have that here for everyone to look at, and then it's 10 pages long, so it's a lot of zoning regulatory language. And so with Oscar, the intern that was working with me, although I haven't seen him much recently, we put together a 1-page summary, which is right here. It says draft on it, and just to give highlights so that people can talk about what it is, because yes, Charlie, you're right, everybody should come to the public hearing.
Yeah.
Because that's the opportunity for the public to weigh in. And the memo from Janet Hill that was discussed at the last housing meeting was in response to the planning commission's review of this, because the planning commission, while in favor of multifamily housing, had some issues with some of the the details in there, and if you want, we can talk about that. Jan, we shared last month the minutes from the planning commission. I have this month's, they met just last week. And they have some concerns about some of the language being either discriminatory or limiting in well, making it cost prohibitive or more prohibitive than they would like. However, what's interesting, and I'm interested to see what the final letter from planning will look like, because they have to weigh in on it. They are mostly supposed to comment on whether what's being proposed is consistent with the plan of conservation and development. Right? And while it is consistent, they may disagree with some of the finer points, which is fine. And that is the point, I think, of the hearing, is for zoning to hear from everyone. If they feel that this needs tweaking. I mean, multifamily housing needs to happen somewhere. But what exactly that looks like and how it's regulated is up to the community.
What were some of their issues?
The planning commission. So,
I know originally, Wayne was talking about having an overlay, zoning, area.
Yeah.
And we did not do that.
right,
But that was for smaller lots, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that was something we did not include right there.
In terms of regulation, what was?
so a couple of the things so one of the first off the bat was that, and here in the summary, it says, it's gonna be allowed in all the districts. And planning took issue with that because they felt that, like you said, around the lake or some of the business district, that it maybe wasn't appropriate in some places. I happen to agree with Woody and feel that the health requirements for the soil and the septic and the setbacks that have been put in will take care of any of their concerns, but everyone has an opinion on that. Some of the other issues they had, one was with the affordability requirement. They felt that would be very prohibitive. Having at least 10%, which means at least one unit, and on some of the smaller ones, they feel that would inhibit the construction of multifamily housing, which they think is important. They also felt that some of the requirements were very specific to, or more appropriate for larger developments, like the landscape, for example. It requires that there's a parking setback of 100 feet, and that there's all these buffers. And if you're just building a 4-unit or 6-unit, something small that looks like a single family home, they felt that some of the restriction or the design elements were cost prohibitive for the small. They felt that there should be more exceptions for some of the smaller designs. So those were their main concerns.
I don't want to drag this out, so forgive me. I just have one more question. I assume that really our goal is that we want regulations that comply and adhere with the state law, right?
Yes,
Who, at the end of the day, let's say zoning comes back with their decision and their regulations, is there someone who is going to review that to say, yes, all of these regulations are in compliance with the state law?
well, we had, Mike Ziska, who the zoning uses as their lawyer, multiple times, look at the different drafts,
Okay,
many
all right.
times through, yeah.
that's all I was
Yeah.
asking about. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, probably, many towns will have them tested in court,
Yeah,
down the road, and we'll find out
Oh, yeah.
what that results in.
Right.
I mean, Washington at one point did have multiple family housing regulations. And then I lived here now, but for some reason or other, I was totally unaware of this. But apparently there was some fear that these gigantic multiple family communities were gonna be developed and that was gonna change the character of the town. And so they just eliminated all the regulations. So that was the end of the regulations. I mean, other towns have had regulations, some, some of them. But many are still working on.
I think
Chris?
Agricosta's land was,
Yeah,
all designed out to have hundred and forty-one units.
yeah,
And so that's when Steep Rock and the town and the state got involved in saving the majority of the land, although there's 40 acres that I think Bill Fairbairn has always held out hope that the family would, give to the town for the cost.
yeah,
So are rentals included in this as well, or is it just for?
yeah.
So are there houses or rentals in town already that would fall under,
Well, they were previously.
like the ones you mentioned, those are.
Right, or Woodruff, or there are multifamily homes all over town.
Yeah.
That just were pre-existing. And they get to stay.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at the summary that put together. There are exceptions in place for existing, so you do it, if you have a single family dwelling right now. And you want to create a multifamily. You wanna subdivide it into
Yeah.
whatever, two units, 3 units, whatever. Then you're exempt from some of these special permitting processes and some of the setbacks, if it's happening within an existing single family home. So some of the more cost prohibitive or restrictive are for new construction. But it still doesn't differentiate, well, make some of it, so some of it's different depending on whether it's in the business district or the residential district. There are different requirements.
And it depends on what road it would be, state road versus town road versus. Non-paved road. Wouldn't be like your road. Yeah. Any other questions, comments about that? So. Whoever you talk to, try to get them to that meeting and try to come yourself to that January 8th meeting. Because I think it's gonna be very important.
I mean, not me.
I believe so,
What,
that there's Zoom options.
Really?
Zoning,
out there? Can they do that?
They usually hold the public hearings right here.
Really?
Yeah.
In this bit,
Judy, what time's the meeting on the 8th?
I believe it's at 7:30.
On the
Yeah.
8th, okay.
It's at 7:30, yeah, so if they're expecting a huge turnout. One of the things that our fire capacity, I think, is like 40 in here, but we don't have Zoom capacity for
No, I
out
don't.
here, so.
So that's why I assumed it wouldn't be. Because I thought that'd be. I don't know, we'll see.
Let's see what they think.
Yeah. Okay,
I mean, the thing is, by having Zoom, you usually have getting more, if you require it be in person, you're probably
yeah,
gonna have less people. So, yeah, I don't know, that's up to zoning.
but they can't do Zoom, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting,
I don't
okay, but you can have 40 people.
think that's what it says over there. You guys
Okay.
read that, the fire code?
Yes,
We're 75 standing.
Or 75 standing. When I've done some public hearings in this room, I've opened the double doors and put some chairs
oh, yeah,
outside there as well, and sort of increase the capacity.
so maybe you can be there with it on Zoom. We'll have to see what happens, okay. Anything else about that? All right, so the next thing on the agenda, again, going on to the Baldwin Hill project, so I talked to Bill today and, they're still working on what they have to do. They have, Sagala had given them a cost of if they had constructed the house on Baldwin Hill. And I think it was probably, it was 350,000, but Brad Sedito, who's on the trust and the other members of the trust said that they needed to add some things to make it, you know, a livable house. So it would probably be 450,000. And Bill says we're not, you know, if it were a family of four, they could sell it for more than 200,000, but they would prefer not to sell it for 200,000. So the difference between those two costs are, you know, we're gonna have to be, we have to get money for that, either through grants or through donations. Also, Bill told me there is a property that hopefully after the first of the year is going to be donated to the housing trust for whatever the housing trust wants to build. I don't know exactly where it is or who's doing it, but Bill has assured me that that's gonna happen shortly after the first of the year. Because the donor does not want to have it during this fiscal year. And that's great, but you know, one of the things that, you know, Bill said, we've gotta go and get some. Or he has to go, the housing trust has to get some potential donors in order to finance this particular house and then also this property and see what's gonna happen on that. They will be coming to our commission for money again for, you know, site plans and that kind of thing, pay for that.
I have a question. Is there a house, isn't there a house that's already on the property? There is.
No.
So
No,
they're not gonna renovate.
one house,
and build a
no.
house.
So it's just building the house.
However, that house, is one of the ones that the commissioner grouped together, which I think we talked about that last. For the
Right,
Department of Housing.
yes.
So hopefully that one will
Well,
get
we're
funded.
hoping, yeah,
I don't know how quickly that'll move, but. Seems to be about on pace for the rest of the.
yeah,
Project, so, yeah, so if that gets funded, then the money that's in the fund currently has
yeah, it can go
to go
to this
towards
next
that,
one,
the
yeah,
next project.
right. Okay, so, I'm just gonna report on, I went to, Desegregate Connecticut, you know, we're working very hard to get affordable housing throughout the state. And so they had a, training for, housing commissioners. So I went to that. And I'm just, you know, give you a little bit of a report on that. So their feeling is that with more affordable housing, the state will become more prosperous, equitable, and sustainable. You have to work, and also their suggestion is to work regionally to make Connecticut affordable for everyone. Right now, towns are kind of mostly working on their own. Desegregate Connecticut does not endorse any candidate or political party. These are just the information points. Housing permits are down more so in Connecticut than in anywhere else. And in addition, we are in a historic low for rental units. Homeowners insurance is adding to that burden because of the insurance going up so much. The zoning is a state power that's delegated to the towns. That's why we have our zoning commissions and their ability to endorse regulations. There's a combination of elected and appointed boards working on affordable housing. So the negative consequences of zoning has resulted in value in sprawl, single family homes, low density, and a car-centric culture. It has contributed to economic and racial segregation, and many of the current regulations are ill-equipped to deal with the housing crisis. That's why we have the multifamily housing, regulations, hopefully that will make somewhat of a difference, who knows? Let's see. They emphasize it's important to bring all local residents into the process. And to be aware of who might not be in the room, who might not be able to come to a meeting. If you're disabled or you're too elderly to get yourself to a meeting. You know, you've got to make sure that you're thinking about those people as well. Let's see, the status quo is unsustainable. We need to provide for our workforce, the disabled, veterans, and seniors. And there are different values at work, our moral values, physical values, our personal values. And that's probably why it makes it so difficult to change zoning and to get affordable housing. Let's see. There are, you know, there's the missing middle. We're hoping that the multifamily housing regulations may address some of that in our town. And let's see, their feeling is that there's economic, equitable, and environmental benefits to affordable housing. I think a lot of people, when they think affordable housing, they think that their home values are going to go down, but I guess research says that does not actually happen. Also consider mixed use housing and cottage clusters. What I'm hoping is particularly for this 30-acre piece of property is that will not be just single homes, but we'll have some, at least, you know, maybe some clusters of homes or multifamily homes. I would have hoped that the one on Baldwin Hill actually might have been a multifamily home, but it looks not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
Is there a reason why?
Pardon me?
Is there a reason why?
It's more complicated. When they do the limited equity homes that they do, the trust owns the land. And then but the homeowner owns the house and is able to sell it at limited equity. If you make it a multifamily, you're either looking at rentals, which then there's no mortgage, so it costs the trust more. Or you're looking at some kind of like condos, which then requires an association or something like that for the communal units, and that's more complicated. What about two houses? Say you're either renting it or you're buying it as a condo, and it just makes it more complicated. I mean, I believe we need to have some of those. We need rental options or smaller options besides single family homes. But it's just a financial model that's easier for the trust to work with because there's a mortgage involved. So that $180,000 to $200,000 mortgage goes towards that $400,000 construction. If it's all rentals, they need to put in all 400,000.
I would think that with a duplex, it should be.
Well, I suppose if one person purchased it and then was able to rent the others, but it would have to be a. Right. But then you have to have mutual, it goes back to that homeowners association. Who does the mowing, who does the plowing, who takes care of the septic? Unless you put it into, you know, it just makes it more complicated. It's not impossible, and there just needs to be sort of a willingness to do that. And Bill knows that the single family home model works and it's more easily. Yeah, more easily.
So, I just want to remind you that, that was pretty much what Bill said when he spoke about it, and, which was that single family homes were just a lot easier for them also to get the funding. Jocelyn did say that if you had two buildings that were each 5 multifamily units, okay, so combined 10, but in 2 buildings, so 2 wells, 2 septics, that was possible, there was possible funding for that. But I think the limitation of the Baldwin Hill property is that it might be up to 3 units.
I think, septic, yeah.
But it was challenging. The land is not easy to sell.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty much, they could do maybe like a 3-unit multifamily, but I think the model for that is somebody owns the main home and then there are 2 rentals that they go.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things at this little training, they just said, you've got to be extremely patient with the process, and Bill has reiterated that over and over again. It just takes a long time to get the money. You have to be patient, you have to listen to people, and so it's important for us to remember those things, those points of it. Okay, the next thing on the agenda was the update on request for money from the town conveyance fees. We haven't discussed that, but I spoke to Bill today, and he and I are gonna actually go and to the next finance board meeting and talk to them about the need for money to come to affordable housing. So,
When is this Monday?
yes,
Yeah.
well, I think he's on the agenda, but I said I was going.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Will that be the newly elected board members at that
Yes.
meeting? It will be,
Yes.
okay. So Pat Haran, for instance, would be on it, would be there. Okay,
yes. Hopefully. Okay, so last week, last meeting, we were talking about marketing strategies and going to different groups. Woody has done such a great job going to the church or the churches. I spoke to Jen Cody today because I think it's important to get the seniors involved in this process. So we have set a date for January 24th. Gonna have like a little luncheon, kind of lunch and learn kind of thing about affordable housing, what their needs are, what if they know people that could donate land or donate money or whatever, just so, and so that they can understand the affordable housing, and so that we can understand what their needs are. So that's gonna happen on January 24th, and anybody else here who would like to come to that, just let me know. So we'd love to have you come with me.
When was that, Judy? I don't have-
24th around noon,
No, but what day of the week is that?
Wednesday.
I don't have my new calendar.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay, thank you.
Okay, Woody had sent me a letter, an email, about his concerns about the commission and what we're doing and possibly coming up with a feasibility study. Did everybody get a copy of that? I sent it to everybody, I believe, in an email. No? Okay, well, I have.
Yeah, it came this afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't know, I saw it.
Anyway, Woody, I talked to Jocelyn today.
Yeah,
And she says she doesn't think we need a consultant. But because Woody had suggested maybe we need a consultant to come. But she will be willing to come to our next meeting and talk to us about this.
great.
So I'm gonna put her on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, do you want to just summarize what you had said? Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah, I do, sure.
Okay.
Well, I'm going away for a few months, so I wanted to just get my oar in on a feeling that we, through no fault of our own, we're more passive than active about all these 30 units that we plan to have in another, 4 years. And it doesn't seem to be going all that speedily or successfully. And in that spirit, I just wondered whether, I've had two experiences in life. I'm a minister, so, one through the church and one when I was on a hospital board in Pittsburgh, where, we had a problem to solve, that cost a lot of money. And so in both cases, we did what I will call a feasibility study. We didn't announce that we were going to do something. We identified 25 to 30 people in the community who, if they were on board to do this, would make a difference or not. And in both cases, certainly the hospital, we hired a very expensive consultant, and over a 5-year period, the hospital built a huge wing, and it was a big deal. A church, a little more modest, but we did really do a big overhaul of the church worship space. It costs $750,000 at the end of the day. In both cases, we identified people who we thought probably were going to make a difference if one way or the other. If they weren't on board with this, it wasn't going to fly. And so in a very disciplined way, we approached these people or institutions and said, if we propose to do this, would you be on board? And, you know, in so many words. And some of these consultants have an artful way of saying, and how much you willing to ante up,
Yeah.
you know, and really pretty precise questions about going forward with something. And we've got a lot of money we have to find. There's federal money and state money, but there's private money that has to be found. When I hear Bill Fairborn, and just this one thing on Baldwin Hill, we've got 30 of these ahead of us, 29.
Yeah. Yes,
So in that spirit, I wrote this thing up, and I just want to stimulate some conversation and thought about that. And I guess the only other thing I would ask is, are there others working on this same issue, maybe known or unbeknownst to us?
I mean, within town?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I gather that the selectmen have a heart for this,
Yeah,
and they're talking and imagining, and I don't know what they're
well, I think
imagining.
the planning commission too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I may be out of order in saying that this is our baby, or this is our concern. Maybe others are,
we have a role.
yeah.
And they have roles too. That's how I see it. But I think these questions are good, where you might, you know, where might we find buildable land? Where are the potential sources of privately donated revenue? What housing expertise will we need in the form of architectural designs, contractor plans, energy saving and cost saving intelligence? I know that Chris has suggested that we have that we have some kind of an architectural contest for
Yeah.
affordable housing, which I think, you know,
It's been done in other communities
Yeah.
in New England, yeah.
yeah.
And I think also the Commissioner of Housing made a point at the Housing Summit that every time somebody in town talked about a great project, she would say check, as in good job, and I'm also sending you a check. But she did say towards the end, the well is not endless. And she made a point about towns getting together and developing plans that could be shared, so that we weren't constantly spending more money on new plans.
So maybe we need to engage housing commissions. But I mean, Jocelyn does a very good job of getting the towns together and
That's great, yeah.
sharing all the information. Which is great,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we just had a regional,
yes,
on November 21st, we had a regional housing council meeting.
yes, I didn't bring that information.
But I mean, I looked at, there wasn't a whole lot of new.
Yeah, it was, just reporting about what their progress and different things. Yes.
So the next meeting with Jocelyn here would be what, the January the 9th?
Oh, my goodness, yes. Oh, yeah, we need to talk about this. Just, yes, if we approve this calendar that's being proposed. So, okay, does everybody have a copy of this? There's a copy there.
So
what's
it's the second Tuesday, and I went through the calendar, I didn't see any holidays that, I mean, Tuesday's not usually a holiday, but I didn't see any glaring. Because hopefully they were all on my electronic next year, but I didn't see any conflicts.
And so, and they're gonna be at 6:30.
Second Tuesday. But if you approve it, then we can
Okay.
give it to the clerk.
So-
Post for next
Okay,
year.
so can, somebody make a motion that we approve this calendar?
So moved.
Okay, and second. All in favor of accepting the calendar as presented?
Aye.
I unanimous, okay.
So I have a question, I'm sure this has been done many times, but. It seems to me that there's a lot of anecdotal information about the need for housing, you know, and. Have we ever done any kind of study so that we're putting together a marketing campaign that there is like actual information about that X number of seniors that, you know, will stay here, that can afford to buy, or families or singles that would like to come back to him. I'm thinking that would be useful to have.
So a lot of the data was gathered when we put together the housing plan, right, but then. The anecdotal and quotes from all the business owners that we put together. You worked with somebody on.
Good Ben.
Oh, yeah, I bet, right, so all those quotes that we have from business owners about how difficult it is to find employees and how they were. The employees that we have wish we could live here, so we have some of that anecdotal information. As well as the hard data that was used in the housing plan. Actually, I was looking at the Partnership for Strong Communities does a housing update every year. And I was looking at the 2022 information that was not of it. I think the plan was done on 2021, 2020 data. And it's fascinating, it talks all about, you know, the age of our community, those people who are cost burdened, who are paying more rent than the 30%, or cost, whether it's rent or mortgage. There's also, I just lost my train of thought, so it's seniors. Oh, we also have the wait lists of the affordable housing that we have. We know how many people are waiting to get into Riverwood, which is senior. Or the other two, and Jocelyn has been working on getting those lists together for everybody in the region, because most people are thinking regionally, like they're on our list, but probably on the list more in their own field.
So I think that information. I think people would be more, not people against affordable housing, but I think it was personalized to Washington, this is a profile of this. I think that it would be, that's the kind of stuff that should be integrated into any kind of so that you know, you have it, and you know that you're, it's people living here, and this is what the housing market was like, and this particular, and I think that's with my recommendation.
Yeah. Or you can just look at Zillow and you can find what the cost of everything.
Right,
Some of that is
tied into the population.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
And that was just some of what we were trying to do when we were working with the Housing Trust. And getting ready for the community day, the Harvest Festival, and gathering quotes, the white papers, and slowly trying to get that on Facebook.
So where can we get this? Hard data and just like have it in black
The
and
hard
white.
data, so the Partnership for Strong Communities, I'll send that to everybody. It's PDF, it's a report they do every year.
Okay,
It's fascinating. I was just looking at ours today because, I'll share about that South Carolina too.
okay.
It has all of that. So, it's our housing profile.
Now, where did they get?
It's census data, but they're able to parse it out.
Year by year?
Yeah, it can do these deep dives that, are tricky.
Connecticut data, like a group out in Hartford that does a lot of things.
There's Data Haven, which is in New Haven.
Maybe have some.
There are several organizations that have this stuff, but if you go to the Partnership for Strong Communities. It's okay. No, you can leave it open, I'll lock it.
Do you want me to leave the key?
You can.
Okay.
I'm so sorry
That's
to
okay.
interrupt.
I'll return.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You can find the housing data profile for every town in the state, so it's kind of fun, just sort of click around and find that, and it's a very comprehensive report. And we should probably review it every so often,
Yeah.
just to remind ourselves. And it shows where we stand versus the county and the state. I was looking at our vacancy rate, I think it has us at 33%, which is much higher than most of the state. It's not vacant, that's how they count. Homes that are owned by people who are not actually residents. So that was just one thing, I was looking at something else.
High percentage of single family homes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, way higher than the state, yes, and they have the number of bedrooms and they have whether the people who own them are cost burden and how many have a mortgage and
Oh, okay,
all of
that's
that,
very
all of that.
important. Okay,
And,
that's good to know.
it's fast, so our highest, they have our population by age too. And our highest band, I think it was 16 or 19% of people in our town are between the ages of 60 and 69, which is the highest band. I think the second highest was 70 to 79. So which is
We're
well,
old.
which is well above the state. So I will send that report around as well. It's
And yeah, Bill always has some kind of statistics saying, not 2,000, yeah, we're old.
Judy,
Yes,
if you were to look at the Housing Commission's application for the Vincent property subdivision. It's a really instructive sort of look at what is required in an application. And the document that you're talking about is an integral part of that. But it's a really nice sort of narrative of, why you're doing it and then responding to all the regulations that you need to, but integrating all that information, I think it's, I can't remember, 60 pages or something.
where do you get that?
It's down in the Housing Commission should have a copy of it because it was
the trust that.
They had to, and the Housing Commission had to approve.
Well, I have nothing
For
from,
money.
the fund.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
right.
nothing from.
And then it-
this.
And then it went to the Planning Commission as a subdivision, because the state required that the land be subdivided
Yeah,
for the 3 houses. But, so it's all there. I can send it to you.
Okay,
quick.
all right, you wanted to,
update. Well,
yeah.
I was just gonna share, because I reached out to Habitat to see how things were going. The 2 houses that are completed, one was supposed to be closing, I think, this week, and the other very soon. Like by the end of the month or something, but the other 2, they do not have buyers for yet. I did ask when they thought those would be complete, they should be completed pretty, like, relatively soon as well. So I had to make a new flyer for me. I was gonna send this to some of our larger employers in town, like Region 12, Supply, people who have employees that are living outside of town that might want to move here. But just so everybody knows, we have two houses that they need buyers for. So that was that. And then I was just.
I think interest rates probably have a lot to do with that right now. I mean, they really are high, so the payments are big, and I think people are waiting to
not-
see whether that's gonna come down.
Not for these, not for the Habitat homes.
Oh, they're
It's
not, okay.
subsidized. Yeah, subsidized by Habitat. I don't remember if they hold. They subsidize the mortgage, it's 0% down and, they work with, I don't think it's Chaffa per se, but they help keep the interest rates down as well.
Okay,
So, yeah, so those,
Does that have that information on the file?
some of it. That's there. The only other thing I was gonna mention, because we're having marketing here, so I went to
It
the
does.
Southbury Affordable Housing Alliance, I think is what it's called. They had a talk last month and I wanted to go just to see what other groups were doing to try to get the word out. And they had a great turnout. Judy came as well. They had a great turnout for this.
And they had this wonderful speaker.
Yeah, they have this guy, his name is Dan. Oh, but the other speaker.
The other speaker was good.
Okay. Anyway, he presented a lot of data. And I've emailed back and forth with him. I wanted to kind of figure out a few things. He did a great talk. I don't know if that's exactly what would be needed here for Washington, because they have a lot of people against affordable housing in Southbury. I don't feel like we have as many people against it. We just don't have a place for it at the moment. So, and I have a copy of a postcard, but we had talked about having a speaker come and kind of trying to make it an event, to create some buzz and to, try to shake the trees for some landowners. So, maybe we could think about what would be a good speaker, what would be compelling here in Washington.
And he would be willing to come.
He would be,
So,
I don't know if that's exactly the right
No,
data, I mean, because he was really trying to set aside the fears of the naysayer, that it's gonna affect your property value, that it's gonna overpopulate your schools. Whereas around here, we're like, please, right? Yeah, so I don't think the message, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. Because he did talk a lot about workforce and, attracting the workforce that you need for your businesses, and that is a challenge we're having here in our town. And our employers are saying that, they can't get employees because nobody can afford to live here. So yeah, you could probably tailor it. I mean, it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Funny speaker, but and
he was
great.
very enthusiastic.
Yeah. Yeah, and they had a raffle and they had cupcakes or something, I don't know, they just made it a whole thing, but they packed a room at
They
the
had,
library.
they must have
Over
had
30 people there.
Yep. He probably had.
So, it's something that we can
Yeah.
consider doing.
Yeah, so I mean, with what we had talked about, something at the library.
Mhm, yeah, so,
We'll be
yeah, we
thinking
could
about
try
that.
that. Try that, I think that's all the extra.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to bring up?
Good opinion piece in the Sunday New York Times. The old new way to find cheap housing, Nicholas Kristof. And it talks about an organization called Pad Split, which is kind of pitched towards people with a large home who want to downsize and maybe have a few apartments, but stay there. And it's intriguing. It seems to be catching on more in the South than around here. But I don't know.
Could you get?
I made one copy.
copies of it? Okay,
Yeah, or we can try to email it around.
yeah,
I can certainly. Try to find the. Yeah, I'll try to find a way to share it. I can scan it and share it too.
okay.
It should be in the New York Times archives just 2
Yeah.
days ago.
Okay, yeah, I see that December 9th. So I'll, if I can't find just the link to it, I'll scan it in and email it.
Well, you can't open a magazine or a newspaper or or something on the internet where they're not talking about affordable
Yeah.
housing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere, and some places are a lot worse off than we are. But we need help too.
And
Okay.
most of the, I think a lot of the effort is going into, creating rentals rather than home ownership. And obviously there is a need for rentals, but
Yeah,
I think we've always, as a nation, been committed to home ownership. And it's a practical thing too, because it's your retirement nest egg. You know, if you
Yeah.
choose to, that for it.
if you can afford it.
Judy, could I just,
Yes, this is time for visitors, and you are a visitor. Go ahead, Chris.
okay, so, you made a comment about the role of the housing commission, and I may have misunderstood it, but I want to emphasize that, you know, the housing trust was basically created as a stopgap because nothing was being done in the town. As far as I'm concerned, the housing commission is the primary, you know, representative and should be the main force creating housing in the community. And maybe we'll actually allow housing trust at some point to retire. Because it's, you know, I mean, you're trying to staff two different entities. I mean,
Well, a lot of towns have that. They have
I know,
they have,
I think the reason why a lot of towns
Nonprofit.
had it is because historically towns did not want to step to the plate. My sister spent her whole career in planning and government, always says, Washington doesn't have a municipal housing authority, you know, I mean, you know, and we're small.
but I think that I,
have a lot of things.
so I understood that our role was to support financially the work of the housing trust. And maybe I have that wrong.
I think the housing commission should be taking the lead. And what you've done by going to the board of selectmen and saying, you know, get real, $5 million, that's taking the lead. You know, it may not be that the town does come up with that amount of money, but you've established that that's what it's gonna take to get to 30 units.
Yeah,
And in the plan that we adopted. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is, we use, the expression that you pressed and you shoehorned in, to a small area. And in a lot of ways, I look at that and say, well, it's a walkable community, right? And that's a cluster, right? But the reason why the 31 acres of more property was brought to the town's attention was, one, to give New Creston the ability to sort of think about planning for the future with 31 acres as to draw upon, right? And we immediately purchased it with open space money. I think there's 6 acres that would lend itself to 6 small homes, 3 bedrooms, and 12 apartments. They could be senior apartments. And 25 of the acres would be septic and open space, right? Ray Underwood said it was doable when we took him out there to look at it. So it was purchased with open space funds. But David Miles and Mark Lyons said that there was a way of rejiggering things, so maybe some housing could happen there. So the Housing Commission, as far as I'm concerned, has 31 acres at their disposal.
thank you. A challenge, a little challenge.
So it's not.
What?
like, you know,
You're challenging us.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a resource and it's a great opportunity, to do, you know, you start with the need for housing. Look at what the Conservation Commission is concerned about. Look at it as a community planning thing, village center planning, you know? I mean, 31 acres for shoehorn, which is an appropriate term for what it is now, but for that village center, that's a huge gift. A lot could be done with it.
So you can also send me as much information about that as you have.
Well, okay.
I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't know where to start
That's,
with that.
that's the one we've searched for, right? I
Well,
think I sent around the minutes of the town meeting when we purchased it.
Yeah, I mean, we do have so there was this great meeting with about 30 representatives of all the different commissions and selectmen, where everybody agreed the town.
What year was
buy
it? What year was that?
Uh,
About,
it was probably
about.
around 2000.
Oh,
Okay. And everybody agreed, but Jack Fields suggested we establish a committee. And the person who was willing to sell it to the town for $325 said afterwards, I've waited long enough. So he sold it for $550 to somebody who wanted to develop it. So their plan, they came to planning, they didn't understand the regulations, but they did show a plan with, I think it was 6 houses, so you've got that plan. Send that to you, so I resend it to you. But that actually confirmed a lot of the septic capacity potential for the property. When that guy decided that wasn't a good idea, and he wanted his money back, the town purchased it for $500,000. We used open space funds
okay.
because they were readily available. But I think the people that promoted it did hope that eventually there could be a housing component to it, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's yours.
Any other visitors wish to speak? Okay. All right, motion to adjourn. Henrietta, and second,
Second.
all in favor of adjourning?
Adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.